Hi, everyone. This is Jeff Clark at the Paydirt Prospector newsletter here in sunny Vancouver in January at the Metals Investor Forum. Thanks for joining me. And I have a company that I've owned for a long time. The stock has done very well, but there's so much more to go here yet. So we're going to talk about that. But here's the CEO of Erdene Resource Development, Peter Akerley. Peter, thanks for joining me here.
Great to be here, Jeff. And yeah, what a wonderful time and warm in Vancouver, as you said. I just came from Toronto where it was a little bit cooler.
Right.
I said yesterday it was going to be the coldest place on the planet. So.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's great to see the sun here in Vancouver.
It sure is.
But boy, it's crowded here. A lot of excited people, a lot of smiles.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of which I think own Erdene Resource Development.
For sure.
So, but first, before we get into all that, let's talk about the team, your background, their background, because the team is a big part of what is pushing this company forward so
really
well.
Is. Yeah, I'm glad you're starting there. You know, I went to Mongolia as a geologist in the late 1990s and had an opportunity to see this great belt of rocks, the Central Asian Orogenic Belt, that had never witnessed modern exploration. And so I wanted to start a company around that and began to build that team out as we moved into the 2000s. And today, when I look at the team of 6 senior managers I have, most of us have been together during that entire period. You know, that longevity is something where great trust and different disciplines from engineering, exploration, administrative in Mongolia, and kind of split between half Mongolian citizens and half North American, and Canadian. But just a tremendous team with great depth, great understanding of Mongolia geology, but also respect for the country. And that's very important to me as well.
Yeah.
And then when you step up to the board, you know, we have Canada's first ambassador to Mongolia. We have the person that ran Oyu Tolgoi was the CEO for the first 6 years. They spent $6 billion building that first open pit on our board. Our chairman spent 25 years in Mongolia with senior mining companies.
Wow.
So just a tremendous depth of experience that I don't think could be replicated by anybody in terms of operating in Mongolia.
Yeah. And MMC.
Talk
about that.
Yeah, that was coming to my mind just as those words came out of your mouth. You know what? We could not have found a better partner on the planet.
Mongolia Mining Corporation.
Exactly. Yeah. We had been in discussions as far back as 2018, 2019, when we had discovered this high grade, as you had expected, attracted a number of international gold mine players, some of whom were on site repeatedly. We began discussions with MMC, and all of them could bring expertise and money, but nobody could bring that depth of relationship that MMC brought, from the local communities up to the heads of state. And they're very well respected. They understand Western business practices, but it's not a single mining company. It's a business conglomerate that has all of the elements you would want to build out a mining district. You know, they have divisions that are power transmission, mine constructors who worked with Rio Tinto at Oyu Tolgoi. And we share that vision of, okay, we've got a 6-year mine life of a reserve. We got this tremendous potential, not just at Bayan Khundii, but Altan Nar and Edzun Mod to build out a new mining district. And the infrastructure's coming. You know, all of those things that you need are starting to build up around us, and we have that team to put it in place. So tremendously exciting.
You started production last September, I believe it was. So let's talk about that first. You went into production. Where's that going? And how's that going?
So first off, it took us 22 months and $115 million to build this facility, which is almost unheard of, I think, in the mining world. For something of this scale. So very successful startup. We hit first gold in September, which was effectively putting mineralized waste and low grade into the plant to get the kinks out as we move that towards steady state production. So there's a 6-month startup phase that we call the ramp up, which is targeting 50% of production during that period on average. But effectively it's ratcheting up to get to full production as we move into Q2. The really amazing thing about this has been we're pretty much at nameplate. Commercial is 30 days steady state, but effectively today I can say we're at nameplate production. But not only are we there, we are also getting recoveries that are substantially higher than what we would have expected at this 2-gram average grade that we're feeding today. So the first part of that equation is pretty much met. Now, as we go through the next 3 to 4 months, and particularly as we get into nicer weather in the spring, we'll be ratcheting up that head grade into the plant from the mine. So today we're just feeding 2-gram material. We were using a lower cutoff, and now we'll up that cutoff and start to be more selective about mining. Ideally, be hitting that 4 gram as we move into Q2. So far, so very good. Yeah, I'm
And that's going to go to the bottom line of profitability.
That's right. Yeah. So 7,000 ounces a month. Well, as you can imagine, at this gold price, it's almost unfathomable in some ways, but it's over $200 million a year in EBITDA that we'll see coming out of that at these gold.
And that's at this level. Yeah. I mean, production over time is probably going to increase here, right?
There's some great opportunities. We have already started to look at conceptual build out of expansion at the plant. We don't have a gravity circuit on that plant, which is low hanging fruit to increase capacity. We are now looking at a cutoff grade that's, let's say 0.3 instead of 0.7. All of a sudden you have all this additional low grade ore. Can we do a heap leach to complement the CIP?
Okay.
So those are two kind of upgrading of production opportunities that we're examining, as well as the exploration around us. It's immense, the opportunities.
Well, and that leads to our next question, the copper discovery you just announced. That was fantastic. Congratulations on that, by the way. That's really exciting. But tell us about that.
So the project 35 kilometers to the east is called Hoevenhaar, and within that we have this very large molybdenum copper porphyry ore body. We've been moving that forward more aggressively now because infrastructure's come and moly price is strong given deficit in China. So that's a part of that complex, but we always knew we had a copper porphyry component. The system's more copper dominant. So in the northwest corner, 3 kilometers from the moly, we had, let's say we had 100, 200 meters of 0.1, 0.2, some sniffs of 0.3. We drilled a hole and announced that in, 2 weeks ago, and we hit 65 meters of 0.6 copper. And it has all of the attributes you'd expect to see in the top of a copper porphyry system. And without getting too technical, when you have that explosive breccia at the top, you get breach and seal textures. And there's things that we see that suggest to us we're at the very top of that cupola. So good signs, good grades, lots of upside from here.
Yeah, that's great. And that is one of the theses here, is that this is a vastly under or unexplored region. You've got multi-commodities, multi-deposits here to explore. So
and just to sort of try to encapsulate that, we're the first out there. There's been no exploration before we arrived. We found 4 deposits, all at surface except for one below 80 meters that we found with geophysics. And there's been no deep exploration. So very exciting future in the Khundii Minerals District. And we put ourselves in a place now to take advantage of that for our shareholders.
Absolutely. And speaking of shareholders, what can shareholders expect here for 2026? You've got multi things going on here, but tell us what we can look forward to over the next.
So it's kind of step by step. Obviously, our team is contributing to getting Bayan Khundii to steady state. So, a lot of my people who I will use for development projects are focused on that. So for the next few months, let's get this to steady state. But already we've commenced drilling on Dark Horse. So Dark Horse is that high-grade supergene. We've just finished 5
gold. Gold.
Yeah. So north, 2.5 kilometers north of Bayan Khundii, Dark Horse is a high-grade gold supergene that's 7 grams per ton that we'll bring in year 3. But what we didn't do was we didn't fully explore that. So in Q4, we did 5,000 meters of drilling to extend that over as much as 1.5 kilometers.
Okay.
And that will bring additional resources to the CIP, but potentially, as I mentioned earlier, with the lower cutoff, provide feed for a heap leach facility. So those results, you'll see first drill results and then conceptual ideas of what are we going to do with that as we move through Q2 of next year. There's work that's planned to take place around the mine site. I mentioned 40 meters of 7 grams. We'll continue to push to the west. So those are probably the 2 key areas where we'll see expansion and results coming out in the first half of the year. And then jumping up to Erdene, which is 16 kilometers north, we'll begin to move the drill rigs up there in the second half of the year.
The copper?
No, that's the gold polymetallic.
Another deposit.
We have 500,000 ounces of gold there, and there's a silver lead zinc component to it. So we'll start to move that forward too. When I put those 2 together, Bayan Khundii and Erdene, I envision 150 to 200,000 ounces of production as we move towards the end of this decade.
Annually.
And then we'll move the Zunmod, both moly and copper projects along as well. So that's part of
Will those be drilled this year? Follow-up drilling
we just finished 3,000 meters of drilling at Zunmod to improve upon the near-surface economics for the PEA. So those results will be out in Q1. We'll get the PEA out in Q2. And we're looking at funding for that copper. So when we talk about we're fully funded for the gold, There's still funding that would be required if we want to get aggressive on Huvenhar and or Terra Gold, probably in, let's say in the $10-15 million range, should we consider that. But the gold projects are all self-funded by
cash flow. Yeah.
Until we get to I guess end of 26, early 27, at which point we'll see cash flow coming back into the company.
Yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations for everything you've done. The stock has done well, but you can tell there's so immense potential here still ahead for the company. That's why I'm very long on this stock. So I hope you'll check it out. Thanks for joining me, and thanks, Peter, for coming on here
Jeff.
at the Metals Investor Forum.